On a clear night in October, a bird smaller than your fist steps off a branch in northern Europe and points itself toward Africa. It weighs about as much as a small handful of coins. It has never made this journey before. No parent is leading it. The road ahead is 4,000 kilometers of darkness, open ocean, and weather, and it will fly most of it at night, alone. And it will arrive. For a long time, people assumed a bird like this finds its way the obvious ways: the stars, the coastlines, a path learned once and remembered. Some of that is real, for some birds, but it is nowhere near enough, and it cannot explain the young ones who fly the whole route correctly on the very first try, with nothing memorized at all. What that small bird is actually using is a sense you do not have and have never once felt in your life. It can read the magnetic field of the entire planet, and the strangest part is where it may be reading it, not in its brain, in its eyes. Start with the field itself, because it is real, it is everywhere, and you are sitting inside it right now. The Earth is a slow, enormous magnet. Molten iron turning in the core throws a magnetic field out around the whole planet, and it curves back in at the poles. It passes through your walls, your body, this room, completely unfelt. A compass needle swings to it. You cannot. The first hard proof that a bird could came in 1972, when Wolfgang and Roswitha Wiltschkos, working in Frankfurt, placed migratory robins in funnel-shaped cages during the restless weeks of migration season. The birds, with no stars and no landmarks to see, still gathered toward their normal migratory direction. Then the Wiltschkos did the decisive thing. They ringed the cages with electric coils that let them rotate the magnetic field by hand, and the birds rotated with it, moved magnetic north across the room, and each bird turned its whole body to match the new direction. It was not guessing. It was reading the field directly with something nobody could yet point to. Then it got stranger, because the compass turned out to need light, block certain wavelengths, and the bird's sense of direction quietly falls apart. Now, a magnetic compass that depends on light makes no sense at all if the sensor is a chip of iron buried somewhere in the body. It makes perfect sense if the sensor is in the eye, and that is exactly where the trail leads. In the retinas of migratory birds sits a light-catching protein called cryptochrome, and one form of it, Cry4, has become the leading candidate for the real magnetic receptor. Henrik Moritzen at the University of Oldenburg has spent much of a career building that case. The idea is genuinely staggering. When a particle of light strikes that protein, it knocks an electron into a brief, unstable state, and the chemistry of that state is delicately sensitive to the magnetic field around it, which means the field could be tilting a signal right there in the eye, which means the bird may not feel the field as a force at all. It may see it as light. This is the point where the story walks out of ordinary biology. The mechanism the physicists think is behind it even has a name: the radical pair mechanism, first proposed by the biophysicist Klaus Schulten in 1978. It runs on quantum physics. In this picture, the bird's eye is running a quantum measurement over and over, and turning the result into something like a pattern laid across its vision: a smudge, a shadow, a faint brightness in one part of the sky that slides as the bird turns its head. We have no way to know what it truly looks like from the inside, but the leading explanation for how a robin crosses a continent in the dark is that it carries a quantum instrument wired straight into its eyesight, and you can jam it with almost nothing. In 2014, a team led by Svenja Engels, working in Henrik Moritzen's lab, published a finding in the journal Nature that rattled the field. Their robins, kept in plain wooden huts on a university campus, simply could not orient. The magnetic compass refused to work. The birds found their direction only once the huts were screened with grounded aluminum, which blocked the faint electromagnetic noise leaking out of the surrounding buildings and wiring. Not power lines, not strong fields, the thin, broadband hum of everyday human electronics was enough to blind a sense that reads the whole planet. Carry the same birds out into the quiet countryside, away from the noise, and the compass came straight back. It is a fragile instrument, this thing in the eye, and we have quietly filled the air with a static it was never built to hear. So put it all together. A small bird, flying a route it has never seen, is not navigating in any of the ways we pictured. It carries a compass that ignores north and south and reads the tilt of the planet instead. That compass very likely lives in its eyes. It appears to run on a flicker of quantum physics, and it is delicate enough that the hum of a city can switch it off. The bird is not looking at the same world you are. It is looking at the world plus one more layer, a field that wraps the entire Earth, printed into its vision, as faint as a watermark and bright enough to steer a life by. And that is the part worth sitting with for a moment. The sky over your head is not empty. It is full of a signal, steady and planet-sized, that has been there every single day of your life, and you have never once caught a flicker of it. You needed an instrument invented just to learn it was there at all. The bird needed nothing. It was born already reading it. So the next time a flock crosses the evening in a clean, certain line, heading somewhere you cannot see, think about what is really happening up there. They are not guessing. They are not following anyone. They are seeing a piece of the world that was closed to you from the very start.